Hey guys, bonus episode of the Joshi Pod. We had this young woman on not too long ago, but I wanted to have her on again because she went to a couple of Joshi shows. Welcome back to the show, Farrah Hasnain. Thank you so much for coming back on the Joshi Pod.
Thanks again.
So you went to a couple shows, a
Yeah,
couple
I went
Stardom
to two
shows.
shows. Yep.
So what was your impetus on wanting to actually go to a show?
So ever since I got into Hana Kimura, I've always wanted to go to a show. Actually, I originally planned on going to a show last March, but it got canceled. Um, and I heard that. And also another problem was I never lived in Tokyo before, so once I moved to Tokyo, that was my main goal. I was like, I have to go to a match. Um, and I heard that this was TCS's retirement match, so I really wanted to make sure I was able to see TCS's potentially final match before I would miss out. Um, so I originally got a ticket to Yokohama, and I
Hmm.
think that was the original match, but it got canceled due to COVID or something, or I think someone in the staff got a fever. So the match was delayed past August, and so I ended up going a few weeks ago to Korakuen Hall, and um, because I wasn't able to go to the Yokohama show in the first place, they made it so that I could go to the Yokohama Budokan in October,
Hmm.
so as a free match. And when TCS won unexpectedly, I was so shocked when they won. I decided to go to Yokohama Budokan to see TCS have a no rules match with Oedo Tai.
So was this your first time ever going to Korakuen Hall?
Yes, it was my very first time.
So, how familiar are you with Tokyo? I mean, you just moved there recently. How familiar are you with the different areas in Tokyo?
Well, I used to go to Tokyo once a month for research, but I would go to Harajuku or Shibuya or something. I would never go to hall really. I mean, I would
Mhm.
go to Tokyo Dome for a concert, but
Mm.
because they actually hold concerts there a lot, but I never went there for any athletic sports matches.
You got to
So
go for a baseball game sometime too. It's amazing.
I really should.
So, tell the people. I've been to Korakuen Hall before, but tell us your experience at Korakuen Hall. Um, you speak Japanese, so you have a little bit of advantage over some of us, but the whole process of trying to find, it's interesting because it's not like on the ground floor.
Right.
So,
Um
yeah, you go to Korakuen for the first time.
yeah, it was pretty funny. Coincidentally, I met Kai in person the same day.
Mm.
'Cause,
Kai
Kai
Kobayashi
had
from a terrace house.
Yeah. So he had an art exhibition in Omotesando, and Omotesando's very close to Korakuen, actually. Um, so I met up with him, and I wore the Eddie Hark shirt. And then, for the Korakuen match, I decided to wear the Hanakimura memorial shirt that Kyoko was selling.
I'm wearing it
Um,
right now as we speak.
oh, sweet. I'm wearing my Oedo Tai shirt.
This is the first time I've wore this shirt. I've had it in my closet for a while. I never wore it, but today I decided to wear it.
Nice. Perfect occasion.
Yes.
Yeah, so Korakuen was really easy to find. I just used Google Maps. Um, I've never actually been to a match before COVID, so I don't know what normal is. But when we went there, they're very strict about social distancing and taking your temperature. So right before I would even enter the building, they checked our temperatures, and even for the line for the merch, we had to stand a few feet apart from each other.
Did they do like the forehead temperature, like the little gun thing?
Actually, I think they put it to our wrists.
Mm,
So
okay.
yeah. Luckily I went through. um,
so
yeah, and
so you hit the elevator, you go upstairs. What are you expecting, and what do you see? Is it what you expect?
oh man, I was expecting to see very long lines at the merch area, but actually the lines weren't very long.
Mm.
Actually, there weren't that many people in Korakuen for some reason, but there was a, like kind of a long line for merch, but it went really quickly. I think because they had multiple lines, they were very efficient with everything. Um,
Japanese are
I
good at
Yeah, right.
that.
I'm so used to it. It was like Disneyland but faster.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I believe after the matches they have a signing thing, right, where you meet the wrestlers or something.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so because of COVID, they don't have that. So
Mm.
they pre-sign everything, and you would buy the checky and everything in advance before the match starts. Um, and yeah, so when I walked in, they gave me a sheet of paper, and it was all in Japanese, but it was fine for me. But it was a list of every item, and it was kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. Like you would write how many units of each item you wanted. So, for example, if I wanted one Oedo Tai shirt, I would write one and the size. And I also did the same thing with the checky. I ended up getting a Julia checky, a Kiona checky, and a Kiona swimsuit checky.
Nice.
Yeah, and an Oedo Tai shirt. Um, and because they gave us the lists in advance, it was super efficient. Like you just give them the list. Oh, and I got a randomized like a button. So I got the Konami button, ironically.
Oh.
The vintage TCS Konami button.
It's a collector's item now.
Yeah. um, yeah, and I just gave them the list, and they were pretty efficient. They were also very flexible with me. Like I remember, the button for some reason wasn't even on the list. So I was like, can I have a button? They're like, sure, how many? Like they were very open with like selling as much merch as possible. So
Mm. I understand that many of the women make most of their money selling merch.
yeah, like I didn't realize this, but it's very similar to idol culture and like musicians in Japan.
Mm.
Um, like, because musicians, like visual kei musicians and rock stars in Japan, they also sell merch. They make most of their money through merch, and they also sell checky, and they also sell randomized items like buttons. So I thought it was interesting how it was exactly the same as like going to a concert, except it was just like wrestlers instead. Because I've done the exact same thing for K-pop concerts.
So you go through the hallway into a Korakuen Hall.
Yeah.
What did you? I mean, is this the first time you've seen a wrestling ring live in front of you?
Yes, it was the first time, and I got very good seats. I decided to go all out because of my first match.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get like the VIP seats. I think they're like $300. But they sold out within like a minute. So I got the second rank seats, but I was literally in the front row, like the first row from the ring on the east section of Korakuen. And when I walked in, like the music was blasting, everyone's super excited, and the VIP section was so lit. Everyone was super excited. Everyone was like preparing their cameras and adjusting their settings and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the. Unfortunately, you didn't get to see the streamers because that's one of the things too. Like when before the show starts, all the people that make streamers walk around and hand you streamers to throw for the different wrestlers. So you need to experience
Oh,
that sometime.
one day.
Yes, yes, when you keep going.
Yes.
So the show starts. Tell me what your thoughts are of the show. What surprises you? What you expected? What happened that you didn't expect? Things like that.
Well, one thing that surprised me was how diverse the audience was. Like, I imagined it being like an idol concert, like mostly full of middle-aged men. And while it was like mostly men in the audience, like I saw a lot of couples, um, a significant amount of women in the standing seats, and in my row in the VIP section, there was like a little girl, like her dad brought her with him, and she was cheering for Tam Nakano. We weren't allowed to cheer, so it was really quiet. So it's mostly like the wrestler shouting, and I think what
How come you weren't allowed to cheer? I'm sorry to cut you off. How come you weren't
oh,
allowed
it's
to
okay.
cheer?
I think they said it was because of COVID.
No, they don't want the
So
spit flying everywhere.
yeah, so even though we all had to wear masks anyway, they said we should cheer with our hearts.
Mm.
Um, And I didn't see anybody with towels for some reason. I think normally like you lift a towel up and show like your team or something.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have that, and I think the only TCS merch they sold at the venue was like the caps, like the hats.
Uh-huh.
I think another thing that surprised me was I didn't expect to be so really into like the other teams, because I think in the beginning, like I was only aware of TCS, and I got into like Julia because of like her rivalry with Hana. So I was really impressed by Hanan and
Mm-hmm.
Riho, and Utami and Saya-chan. I think they're my favorite tag team members of them all. So I was really glad like I got to be in the very front, and the wrestlers like they made so much eye contact with us in our section too. So that really drew me in.
Yeah, that's good. I've got to see sit front row, easy for me to say, at Korakuen before too for a Stardom show, and it's pretty special thing to do and stuff. And yeah, they try to like bring you into the show as much as they can. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was so I wrote this on Twitter. I was in heaven and there was a ring. Like it was amazing. And I think the front row this time it was further away than it normally is, because I watched the shows on Stardom World, and they seem to be closer to the wrestlers, but I think because of COVID it was like fenced off, like a meter away. But
Mm.
I still got like the best view ever.
Did they have the rails, like the metal rails up too?
Yeah, they did. I
Okay.
saw some people get slammed into them. It was great.
Yeah, before those weren't there, but no, it's good they're there. I think those kind of things.
Yeah.
So who that you hadn't seen before or heard of before, who impressed you at that show?
Oh man, I think Utami and Saya-chan really impressed me.
Mm.
Um, I honestly don't know anything about them, but like from what I could tell, they were very close, and Utami seemed very protective of Saya-chan, and it reminded me of like fighting video games. Like I would play like Smash Brothers or Dead or Alive or something, and like the way they tag teamed it together reminded me of what I would play in video games. So I thought that was pretty cool. Um,
What'd you
Also
think of like
Julia.
Takumi Aroha? Did you saw her? She was part of
Iroha, yeah.
the Marvelous group.
Marvelous, yes. Oh my gosh, I loved Marvelous.
I think that all three of the women that were there that day are pretty amazing talents too.
They were so awesome, yeah. And yeah, they were incredible.
Yeah, Takumi's probably like one of my top three favorite wrestlers. The one with the red hair. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
she's an amazing wrestler.
right.
So overall, your first experience, positive, thumbs up.
Oh yeah, it was super positive, and I was actually really shocked because I was emotionally preparing myself for TCS to lose. So I was like, this is gonna be the first and last match I ever see. But no, like when TCS won, like everyone in my section was so shocked, and it's really fun to see everybody else's reaction to it, and like especially like because I can speak Japanese, I got to talk to the people next to me and stuff. So
Were they surprised you spoke Japanese?
I don't think they were surprised, but I think it was because they know that the borders are closed, so
Mm.
they figured that like I lived here. Yeah.
So you had your Hana T-shirt on. Did you see any other Hana anything in the arena at all?
No, not at all. I saw a couple of people wear TCS shirts, but I think most people were wearing like merch from Stars
Mm.
and Donna Del Mondo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no, I got a lot of looks for my Hana shirt. I think a lot of people don't know about the merch because this shirt is sold on an American website.
Yeah.
And I think Kyoko Kimura, she's mostly doing her advertisements on Twitter, but like a lot of these guys, they don't use Twitter. So I had a lot of people come up to me and they're like, "Where did you get that shirt?" And I gave them the link. So, um, yeah. And I remember, I think Kiona, like when she came on to the ring, she was looking at my shirt a lot,
Oh,
and
that's
she was
good.
smiling. So, yeah, I was really happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So around the Korakuen Hall, there's a couple of American style restaurants around there. Did you happen to frequent any of those?
Yes, I went to TJ Fridays.
I love TGI Fridays.
and I had a very interesting encounter.
What's that?
Okay, so after the match, I did like an Instagram story and I was like recording myself talking about the match. And I was like starving because the match was like 3 or 4 hours long. And I went to TGI Fridays and there wasn't anybody there. And then around like 9 or 10 p.m., there is this guy and he was like, "Hey." And I was like, "Hey." And he's like, "God bless you for wearing that shirt," or something like that. And then he looked like an angel. He literally looked like an angel. Like he was extremely tall, like extremely muscular, like Apollo, and wore all white and had a light gray mask on and like had silverish, like blonde hair flipped to the side. And he looked like a wrestler. And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then he like left the building. And I had a feeling this guy was a wrestler and like he knew Hana or something. So I was like, "Who is this guy?" And so like I tweeted about it and I was like, "Hey guys, like, is this dude a wrestler?" Like I have no idea because obviously I couldn't get a picture or anything. And because I said this guy had a non-North American accent and this guy had flipped hair and this dude was white, like everyone thought it was Chris Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tweeted at Chris Brooks and I was like, "Hey, is this you?" And he's like, "No, I'm sorry." I was like, "Wait, it's not Chris Brooks though. Who was it?" And then somebody mentioned that it might have been Osprey. And so then I went on Osprey's Instagram stories, and he was wearing the exact same outfit and everything.
Mm.
And Osprey, yeah, he confirmed with me personally that it was him, and he was having dinner with Priestley.
Those two aren't the most popular people right now in the wrestling world.
No, yeah, they're not, and I understand why. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was so shocked that even happened to me. Like it was my very first match, and I was innocently at TGI Fridays, and like I come across this very like famous person.
So, a question for you about the B in Will.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not popular among the wrestling world. And does Japan care about what happens outside of Japan? I mean, not just these two, but like other things that happen. If like people have like controversies outside, do they really care about that kind of stuff, or does it really translate over to them?
Um, in my opinion, I feel like they don't seem to care, unfortunately. Like, I remember like actually like a couple of days ago, like people were tweeting about B Priestley and criticizing Will Ospreay, understandably. And some Japanese fans, and I recognize them because we went to the matches, like the same matches, like so we followed each other on Twitter. And these Japanese fans who speak English just fine, like they understood the English tweets. They were posting tweets in Japanese criticizing Western fans for quote unquote bullying B Priestley and bullying Will Ospreay.
Mm.
And yeah, unfortunately, I think in Japan, like they don't seem to care too much about what's happening beyond like the borders. So
Do you think it's not me? Do you think it's not caring, or them just not being aware of what they are being accused of doing?
I think it might be a little bit of both. Like obviously depends on the person, but I notice,
Because you got to
you
do your
know,
homework. I mean, if you're not on Twitter while it's happening, sometimes you got to do your
yeah.
homework to almost go find out what's going on.
Right, exactly. I think one issue is that all of the media about coverage about this is in English. Like there's nothing in Japanese really.
Mm-hmm.
And also the attitudes towards sexual assault in Japan is kind of backwards and like less vocal compared to the US. So like even the Me Too movement wasn't as popular in Japan.
Yeah. Well,
So and
hopefully,
speaking out,
hopefully it'll catch up
yeah,
over there as well.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your first show was a success, and
Yes.
so then you went to Yokohama as well, correct?
Yes, I did. I went to the new Budokan,
I've
freshly made
not,
for the Olympics.
I've not gone to. I've been to Yokohama. I love Yokohama. Yokohama's where I want to live at. But
Yes.
tell me about that. I don't know that facility at all. So kind of let us know about that facility.
That's okay. I honestly didn't know about it either. I got lost a couple of times and I was running late, so I took a taxi from one of the stations to the venue, and even the taxi driver didn't understand where it was. because they didn't have the Olympics, so I guess they'd never really driven there before. But no, like it was way bigger than Korakuen. Oh my gosh! Like I can understand why it was built for the Olympics. Um, like the theatrics and everything was up by 100%. My seat was a little further away, but it was still in a good area. I was, I think, 3 rows away from Rossi, so I had a nice view of the back of his head.
Was he wearing a fancy hat like he always wears?
Yes, he was wearing a fancy hat and he had a really cool like suit. It had like horses on it.
He always wears wild suits and wild hats. Yeah,
I love it. Yes. And like the music was blaring. There are a lot more people. I think they sold out every seat.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, being in a bigger venue, how is that your experience overall as compared? Because Korakuen's amazing. I mean, people don't know. Korakuen is just, it's so tight and nice and just perfect. So, what's it like seeing it in a bigger facility like that? What was the difference for you?
I think the bigger difference was I guess how many reactions you got to see. And again, like the diversity of the audience, because I think there are way more women who came to this match, and I think they specifically came for TCS. And yeah, like it was very like real to see like how many people were huge fans of Stardom in general. I like Korakuen for the intimacy, by how close everybody is, but I also like Yokohama Budokan because it's like going to a concert. It's gigantic. So.
Would you ever consider going to the Tokyo Dome for a show?
Yes, definitely. I would love to. The last time I went to Tokyo Dome was, I think, in 2015 for a Big Bang like K-pop concert.
That's awesome. So tell me about the Yokohama show. Tell me what some of the things that stood out to you on that show.
Oh,
you saw some of my favorites on that show too.
Yeah, I did. So I felt like the wrestlers were more performative in this one for sure. I don't have a background in the difference between the tournaments, but I think the Cinderella tournament is a really significant tournament, right? And because they were trying to make up for the matches that got canceled, they combined them all, so that was even longer than it was originally supposed to be.
This is a big show. It was a big. I mean, everybody was there.
Yeah, everybody in the club was there, even Kairi Sane.
But you got to see Natsu and Yuna Manase team up. Those are the two of my favorite people in all of wrestling.
Yes.
They wrestled Riho and Saya Iida.
Yes, they did. And I loved how everyone did their hair for the match too. Like Saya Iida, she came out with this green hair. I was like, ooh. I just saw you last week.
So what was your reaction, and two, what was the crowd's reaction to the Tokyo Cyber Squad breakup?
Oh man, that was an emotional roller coaster. I think everybody was in shock because well, actually there were a couple of mixed reactions. Some of us were in shock because we had that false sense of security from the last match. And in my section, I kept hearing like yappari, 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 and yappari in Japanese means oh, as I thought, or oh, I knew this would happen. So it was interesting to see how people perceived it differently. I was like crying so much when Kyona made her speech. It was so heartbreaking.
Kind of tell us what she said.
Okay. So I think the speech was a little longer than what's on Stardom World, but basically she said that she looked up to the sky and she said sorry. She didn't say Hana's name, but it was obvious that she was apologizing to Hana. She said, I'm sorry I couldn't protect TCS and that we couldn't survive. And she told everyone, like, thank you very much to those who supported us. I Jungle will go on my own path. And she said her life will always be changed because of being in TCS.
Mm.
And everybody was in tears. Like in my like area, it was a bunch of old men, and they were like bursting into tears, like sniffling. There were a lot of sniffles.
Mm.
I wish I brought tissues, but and even I think Konami cried a little bit. So I remember I couldn't really take pictures because I was like very emotional. But when Konami walked out of the ring, she like licked her lips in front of the camera and turned around. And on starter mode, you can't see her like the front of her face. But when I took pictures of her like as she turned around, she was crying too.
Because I mean,
So
it's basically the last of Hana in Stardom.
yes.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah, and they even did an intermission for us. So I think it was 5 to 10 minutes, so everyone can collect their emotions. Um,
What do you think about them referencing indirectly Hana in a wrestling storyline?
I thought it was very nice of them to do. I know Hana's mom, she specifically told them that they couldn't sell merch anymore, so I think that was why she couldn't say her name in the
Mm-hmm.
storyline. But I really liked how it kind of closes a chapter to what Hana's legacy was.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after reading Kyona's latest blog posts, like I understood why she felt that way too. She went into more detail, and it's similar to the speech she made at Budokan. But yeah, she said the day Hana passed away, she felt that TCS could no longer really exist,
Mm-hmm.
and this way she could start her own path, and take what she learned from TCS and apply it to something else.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because the Kiona and I'm sure all the women loved Hana, but they're all kind of stuck in the middle a little bit of what's going on with Kyoko and Stardom and just Kyoko in the wrestling world almost right now. Right, you know what I mean? That
Yeah,
the wrestlers
definitely.
want to probably praise Hana and tell everybody they miss Hana, but they can't.
Yeah, like I could tell like she was really holding back from saying Hana's name because of maybe like what was going on behind the scenes
Yeah,
too. But the way it played out, it went very smoothly, I think.
that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So the main event of that show was Mayu Iwatani versus another one of my favorites, Shuri Kondo.
Yes.
Mayu is so good. Shuri is so good. That match was so good.
Oh my, like she's like the female version of Kota Ibushi, I swear.
So you got to see this is like a big time main event for you to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I'm really glad I got to see like my first match and second match were both like really intense.
So you got me okay. So you're a newish wrestling fan. You had you had the main event was almost 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
How did you enjoy a 30-minute main event match as a newer wrestling fan?
I loved every single second of it. It was so intense. And I think another funny thing that happened was so technically we're not supposed to shout or cheer or anything, but in Yokohama Budokan, I think less people cared about the rules, so they would just shout at the ring and stuff, and nobody stopped us. So like I remember like I don't know why, but in my section, like my VIP section, it was mostly like Tam Nakano fans. And so when Tamu wrestled with Julia, I'm a huge Julia fan, especially of her back.
Her back muscles.
Yes, her glorious back muscles, built like a marine. Like she was beating the crap out of Tamu, and like there was this old guy like sitting near me, and he was like shouting. He was like, "Tamu, don't give up. You can do it. I believe in you. Tamu, don't lose to Julia. Don't lose to Julia." And I was like, "Shut up." Julia's back, and I was like, Julia is invincible. Julia is invincible. We kind of had a shouting match like with each other, and everyone was like laughing in our section. So I
So
like how you kind of yeah.
you're becoming one of those fans.
Yeah, I'm becoming one of those fans. It reminded me of like these articles, like I would translate about like Kyoko's interviews about
Mhm.
how Hana got into wrestling, and I saw like the parallels right away. Like I know in the beginning, like I would just kind of watch it as more of an observer, but then slowly, and I don't know if it's normal or not, but I felt like I was in the ring, like mentally.
That's the power of wrestling.
Yes, like that twinkle in my eye, and I was like, "Go, Julia! Julia's back defeats all."
I, I really appreciate that you appreciate wrestling because I don't think the average person, the non-wrestling fan, understands what it takes to do it. And it's like one take acting in front live in front of you, and it's mostly unscripted, as far as, the how they get to the end. So I think I'm glad to hear a new fan appreciate wrestling. Makes me happy.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really grateful that I was even exposed to it because honestly, wrestling is so niche in Japan. Like the average person in Japan doesn't know anything.
Hmm.
Like I lived here for like over 6 years, but I never heard of Hana Kimura until she came on Terrace House. So if I was exposed to her earlier, or if I saw her in a poster in the train station somewhere, I probably would have gotten into it way earlier, but I just didn't know about it.
So do you have any appetite to try any other wrestling to see it live?
Yes, I need to see my man Ibushi live.
what
My
about
husband.
other women's promotions?
Oh man. I want to see more of Marvelous.
Hmm.
Because I thought they really stood out in Korakuen. Um, and well, this is impossible probably for now, but like WWE's women, I would love to see them. I would love to see Session Moth Martina. I think you interviewed her a while back.
I did, yeah.
I would love to see her. She's so fun.
Wait until you see her team with Natsu. It's the best.
Natsu.
So Kiona's going to be out for a while. I guess she has some injuries she's going to get taken care of.
Yeah, she tore her ACL and basically ripped half of her body. Like, um, I think in the announcement, like they said she would be back after 6 months, but I definitely know, like in the US, you would be in recovery for a year. And she
Yeah,
was
for a
fighting.
torn ACL is like almost a year. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I know like even during the matches, I could tell she like I mean obviously like she seemed like she wasn't hurt or anything, but she had so many bandages on her.
Hmm.
And it was so apparent to me, I guess because you can see it clearly in real life. I was like, you need a break. You're breaking, Kiona. You. But what's interesting about Kiona was like in her blog post and everything, she says that her injuries are like badges of honor. So,
Mm.
but I'm glad she's able to take a break for a while and heal properly, emotionally and physically, because she's went through so much this year.
Yeah, it's 2020's been a tough year for everybody, but especially unfortunately for her and the other women at Stardom.
Right.
All right, Farah. I really enjoyed our conversation talking about your first matches, seeing live. Tell us where you can find you on social media.
Sure. So I'm Farrah Hakase, Farrahakase, on Twitter and Instagram.
And how is school going?
School's going. Everything's online, but it's nice because I get to wake up, make breakfast, and like take classes in my PJs.
All Zoom classes.
All Zoom classes.
So, are you going to go to the Kai's art exhibit soon as well?
Yes. So next week he's having another art exhibition. It's dedicated to Hana herself. It's called The Pink Spirit, and I'm definitely going. I'll probably see him, and Kyoko is also coming too. So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, guys, follow her on social media so you can see the pictures she takes. She takes wonderful pictures of the matches,
Oh
and
yes.
no, they're spectacular. It's really amazing. So Farrah, again, thank you so much for coming on again. Maybe we'll have you on one more time before we call it quits. But
Mm.
again, Farrah, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you too.